In this video, I'm talking about the MDHearingAid Air, coming up. Hi guys, Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions in Anthem, Arizona. And on this channel, I cover a bunch of hearing related information to help make you a better informed consumer. So if you're into that, consider hitting the subscribe button. Online hearing aids are here to stay, and by removing the typical evaluation, fitting, and programming processes typically provided by a hearing care professional, hearing aids are substantially lower cost when they're purchased online. And this definitely holds true for hearing aids purchased from MDHearingAid.com. So what is MDHearingAid.com? They are a direct-to-consumer online hearing aid company. They manufacture, sell, and support their current line of 4 different hearing aid models. Their goals are to provide high-quality hearing aids at a low cost. So I decided to check out their flagship model, the MDHearingAid Air. The Air model is what they claim to be the #1 best-selling value hearing aid in America. And according to their website, the Air model hearing aids are digital behind-the-ear devices that have background noise reduction technology, advanced feedback control, 3 environmental settings, full volume control, a telecoil, and are designed for mild to a moderately severe hearing loss. And all of this at 87% below the cost of a comparable hearing aid purchased in a clinic. Before I get into the review of the MD Air hearing aid, I will warn you my reviews tend to get on the detailed side and go a little bit long, so make yourself comfortable, grab some popcorn, and let's get into the unboxing. All right, let's check out and see what we got here. We have the MDHearingAid Air, the best digital hearing aid value in America. Let's get this box open and see what we got inside. So first thing that I see here is some literature. Let's break that out real quick. And first thing we have is a Read Me First, which basically gives you an idea of what to expect over the course of the next 21 days or so. Then it has the MD Shield Protection Plan and a user manual. Next thing we have, let's jump right into the hearing aids. So they have a nice little carrying case here, and they have it split up into left and right, which is universal color coding. Red is right, blue is left. Let's see what these guys look like. All right, so pretty typical behind the ear hearing aid. Not the smallest device I've ever seen, but also not the largest. Definitely have a slim tube design set up on here. They come like that, and then an open fit grip tip type dome. And it also has a little retention filament here to help keep it pushed up and in your ear. On the back of the device has the volume selection here. It goes from 0, which is technically off, up to volume 3. Then it also has a program button, which is for program 1 is quiet settings, program 2 is social settings, program 3 is noisy settings, and program 4 is for a telecoil. And then we have the battery compartment here at the bottom for a size 13 battery. We have some accessories in here, so let's break those out. So it looks like we have some conversion kits if we wanted to switch over those slim tubes into size 13 tubes, which are intended to give more amplification, a little bit more gain for a hearing loss that needs it. And they have different tips in here. These are actually closed tips to help retain more sound inside of the ear, possibly get some more low frequency amplification and prevent a little bit better against feedback. It looks like it's basically one size fits all. Not entirely sure if those will work well for my ears, but we'll find out. And then they come with some batteries here, again size 13 orange pack batteries, and then a little replacement calendar that you can use to kind of remind yourself when to order new domes, new tubes, new batteries, and everything like that. And then they also sent a year's supply worth of size 13 batteries as well. One last thing in the kit is the cleaning tool. It has a long bore punch to clean out the slim tubes. It has a little magnet to help with battery changing, and then of course a brush to clean off the hearing aids. So that's pretty much it that is inside the box. There's nothing left in there. Let's see how these guys work. All right, first let's talk about the comfort, fit, and looks of the MD Air hearing aid. I've got to admit that the devices are pretty comfortable behind my ears. I do have a good amount of room behind my ears, but if you had a really small space between your skull and your ear, it might be hard to get this hearing aid behind your ear comfortably. I do feel it back there. It does have a size 13 battery, so it is a little on the thicker side, but overall I find it to be pretty comfortable. The comfort tips on the end of the hearing aid are actually pretty comfortable as well. You can see that, and it also has a little retention filament here to keep it up and in your ears much better. And so I find it to be pretty comfortable inside of my ear, and using that little retention filament keeps the contour tip from slipping out of my ear, and is also in and of itself pretty comfortable. With all ears being so different, the tube that it came with is a length of 2 and actually fits my ear pretty well. I probably could actually wear a length of 1 because the space between my ear canal and the top of my ear is a little bit on the short side, but overall this would probably work for me. Now if you actually need the size 13 tubing, which you can see here is a little bit on the thicker side in order to give a little bit more of a boost in amplification, when I wear this in my ear, it doesn't stay in my ear that well at all. And so that can be a problem if you're trying to put more volume through the tube. It will essentially just, after a while, if this works out of your ear, that will just leak out and not actually give you any benefit. Now, my first rule of fitting hearing aids is that you have to get the physical fit right first. If you don't get the physical fit right, nothing else after that actually matters. If you can't keep the hearing aids inside of the ear where they're supposed to be, there is no assurance that you're actually going to get the amount of amplification that you're supposed to meet your prescription for your hearing loss. Now, this fit problem that I'm having with the hearing aids might not happen to everyone, it might not happen to you, but one way around having fit issues is to actually go into see an audiologist, have them do a custom ear mold impression for you that they can then put on the end of this tube. As far as looks go, these aren't the worst hearing aids in the world, but they do stick out like a sore thumb, and they only essentially have one color, which is that beige color. In a perfect world, you would want a hearing aid that perfectly matches your hair color because that's what disguises it even more. Now, you might not be the type of person who cares about what a hearing aid looks like, and if that's the case, then this hearing aid is perfect for you. All right, let's move on to probably the most important part, which is how the hearing aids are programmed. The MD Air hearing aid is not custom programmable. It actually comes pre-programmed from the manufacturer. And you can submit an audiogram or your hearing test to MDHearingAid.com, and they will essentially give you a recommendation on which setting to wear the hearing aid on. The 3 environmental settings on an Air hearing aid are not actually for your environments. They're actually for the type of hearing loss that you have. For example, program 1, which is the quiet program, is actually intended for you if you have a flat hearing loss, which means a hearing loss in the low, mid, and high frequencies all at the same time. Program 2 is the party program, but is really intended for individuals who have a high frequency hearing loss above 1000 Hertz. And program 3, which they call the noise program, is for individuals who have a high frequency hearing loss above 2000 Hertz. So it really doesn't make sense to categorize these programs based on the environment that you find yourself in. It would actually make more sense if they named them by what the program was intended to do. That being said, if you do have a flat hearing loss and then you go into a noisy environment, it probably would benefit you a little bit if you were to go to program 2 or program 3 because it would drop out some of that low frequency noise that is in the environment that you're in. To illustrate and measure the differences of these 3 programs, I went ahead and did real ear measures on myself while wearing the hearing aids. If you don't know what real ear measures are, I highly recommend that you watch my video on real ear measurements, which I will link in the card up here and in the description below. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to run measurements on all three of the program settings to see what the differences are. And as we start this first curve here, this is program setting number 1 at volume level number 2, and which is illustrated by that purple line. And so there we are, that is program 1 at volume 2. Now we will run program 2 at volume 2, so at the same exact volume setting, just a different program. And this is illustrated by the red line that you see there. And what we begin to see and the differences between program 1 and program 2 is the reduction in low frequency amplification right here. And once we are done with program 2 there, we will go ahead and run a curve for program 3 at the same volume setting, which is volume setting number 2, in order to show the differences between all three of the programs. And this is illustrated by this turquoise line. And as you can see, we have another reduction in low frequency amplification. So the major differences between these three programs is definitely the amount of low frequency amplification that the devices are giving you. All right, what I want to do now is see how close we can get to the prescription for a moderate to severe flat hearing loss using real ear measurement. All right, just let me orient you with what we're looking at here. That green hash mark line is the prescription for a moderate to severe flat hearing loss. So the goal here is to get that solid green line to overlap with that hash mark line as closely as possible. And that is the most recent measurement that we did with the MDHearingAid with the volume all the way up at 3 using the size 13 tube. And for comparison's sake, we will go ahead and run a measurement with some hearing devices that I was able to custom program to this particular hearing loss. And as you can see, illustrated by the solid pink line, is that we are very closely approximating those hash mark line targets all the way up past 4,000 hertz. All right, let's switch the MDHearingAid into program 2, which is the party setting and is designed for a normal sloping to moderate severe hearing loss after 1,000 hertz. And that is illustrated by the solid purple line that you see here. That purple hash mark line is the actual prescription that we are trying to match with that solid purple line. And I have adjusted the volume a few times now, trying to get it as close as we can. That actually isn't too bad of a measurement. You can see that we are starting to meet targets right above 500 hertz, but it starts to trail off after about 2200 hertz. And again, for comparison's sake, the solid pink line is a customizable hearing aid that we are able to program exactly to the prescription. And as you can see, we are meeting that prescription out past 4,000 hertz. And again, what we would consider a very good hearing aid fitting. And there you go, you can see the comparison between the customizable hearing aid and the MD Air hearing aid. All right, we are now going to switch the MDHearingAid to program 3, which is otherwise known as the noisy setting, and see how well we come close to targets for a normal sloping to moderate severe hearing loss after 2,000 hertz. And once again, this will be illustrated by the solid purple line, which is the sound coming out of the MDHearingAid Air. And again, we are trying to get as close to that purple hash mark line as possible, which is the target for this hearing loss prescription. And as you can see, we are meeting the targets in some areas, and other areas we are not. And then there in the mid-frequency range, we are actually over-amplifying a little bit. And for comparison, we will use a customizable hearing aid to see how close we can get to that prescriptive target for a normal sloping to moderate severe high frequency hearing loss after 2,000 hertz. And as you can see, again, we are able to get right on that prescriptive target line. Now, despite the MD Air hearing aid not matching any of the prescriptions for the hearing losses that I was testing for, it did give me a little bit better result than I was actually expecting. Based on that, I would assume that most individuals would actually perceive some benefit with these hearing aids, just not nearly as much as what you would get from a hearing aid that was perfectly programmed to your hearing loss prescription. All right, so let's talk about some features, and let's start with advanced noise reduction. Anytime we're talking about noise reduction in any hearing aid, we're talking about, can you go into a noisy environment and have those hearing aids automatically adjust to that noise level, maybe reduce some of that noise to help give you a little bit better speech understanding or comfort in that environment. And yes, there is a way to measure this in a hearing aid. All right, this is how we measure noise reduction. On this screen, what we're going to see is a solid purple line pop up when there's noise playing, and it's going to take a snapshot of that noise. What we'll see then is this solid red line moving around, adjusting to the amount of noise coming into the hearing aids. What we would expect to see is that red line dropping below that purple line, and it would give us a difference between the two. And unfortunately, for these particular hearing aids, there was no drop in that red line, which indicates that there is no noise reduction capabilities, at least not that we can measure. So unfortunately, I was unable to identify if these devices actually have noise reduction capabilities, despite the claims that MDHearingAid has on their website. All right, let's talk about the feedback canceller. Feedback is that annoying whistling sound that happens when sound leaks from the ear canal and recycles back through the microphone. It's something that you typically hear on individuals who are wearing hearing aids that are not properly fit to them. And what a feedback canceller would do is, if you do have some leakage of that sound from the ear canal, the hearing aid will identify it as feedback and prevent that cycle from continuing. All right, based on my experience with the feedback canceller is that it's not very good if it exists at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this hearing aid. I have the size 13 tubing on it, and I have the closed comfort tip that they have. I'm gonna put this in my ear, and we're gonna see if it feeds back when I turn it on. So here we go, I'm gonna turn it on. Okay, all right, let's get rid of that. Yeah, feedback canceller, not so good. So feedback is definitely a problem. If that sound that you need doesn't get retained inside of your ear and leaks out, that's essentially sound that's not giving you benefit. And if it ends up causing feedback, that is even more of a detriment to you, because that will impede you hearing other things that you really want to hear. All right, let's talk about customer service. I actually found their customer service to be quite pleasant. Well, after I made the order online, they gave me a call to make sure that I received the device and that everything was going okay. When I did have questions, it was actually on a weekend that I had the questions, so I actually emailed them, and within 2 days, I think it was, I got an email response back. That email response was rather detailed from what I was expecting, so I did appreciate that from the customer service side. Also, they are more than willing to talk to you and identify maybe what the right device is for you and which program or environmental setting you should put yourself on based on the type of hearing loss that you have. All right, let's talk warranty. You actually get a 1-year warranty with the purchase of a hearing aid or hearing aids, and you can renew this warranty by 1 year for $120. Now, this covers the repair of the device. If you lose the device, there is no coverage for that. Now, once you're outside of your potentially 2-year warranty window, if you did choose to extend the warranty of your devices for that extra year, you could still have the devices repaired by sending them back into MDHearingAid. You just need to call them to get pricing for what that would cost you. The other thing is that they don't let you take it into a hearing care professional to get it serviced. If you do that, they will void the warranty. One thing that the hearing aid warranty does not cover is additional tubes and comfort tips or domes. If you need additional tubes or domes, you have to pay for them, and they are rather pricey compared to what you could get them at inside of a hearing aid clinic. So you might want to try your local hearing aid clinic, local hearing aid dealer first before ordering more tubes online. All right, let's talk about returns. You actually get a 45-day worry-free guarantee, which means that if any time in that 45 days you are not satisfied with the hearing devices, you can send them back for a full refund. There is a couple of caveats though when it comes to getting this refund. The first one is that you have to have the devices for at least 21 days. And they do that to ensure that you have enough time of using the hearing devices to give your brain time to acclimate to the change in amplification. And so if you try to return the devices within a 21-day time period, they will essentially assess a fee on that, and they won't refund you the full amount of money. The other thing is that if you end up returning the devices without calling them first to get a return merchandise number, then they also are not going to refund you the full amount of money. So basically, you have the time period between day 21 and day 45 to call them to get a RMA number and actually return the devices in that window if you want to get a full refund for the hearing aids. And last but not least, we couldn't talk about any MD hearing aid without talking about price. At $800 for a pair, it is absolutely an affordable hearing aid option, and you can even finance it with 0 interest for 2 years, which brings your payments to around $67 a month. One thing that's a little bit misleading is the 87% less expensive when you buy a pair, and this is assuming that you go to a hearing aid clinic and buy a pair of hearing aids for $6,000. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know by now that when you're paying for hearing aids and you spend $6,000, you are likely spending a large portion of that $6,000 for the care and the fitting of those hearing devices. And so it's not really comparing apples to apples when you look at it from a price comparison standpoint. And on the other hand of that, these devices, at least the MDHearingAid Air model of devices, they are so far nowhere near comparable to even the lowest level of technology that you would find when buying a hearing aid inside of a hearing clinic. All right, so let's talk about some of my impressions of the MDHearingAid Air. First and foremost, overall, from a price perspective, these hearing devices definitely perform better than I thought that they would at the $800 price point. And on top of that, it is super easy and convenient to order hearing devices online, have them shipped to your house, call when you need some help, fit them to yourself, play around with them, see how much benefit you get from them. I do find that to be rather enticing from the convenience perspective. Now, despite not being required by MDHearingAid, I would highly recommend getting a hearing evaluation to see what type of hearing loss that you actually have. MDHearingAid has no requirement for you sending in an audiogram to them so they can see and give you a recommendation. They do say that you can do that, but in my experience, not having an actual hearing test done on your hearing can actually be a really big problem medically if there's something medically causing your hearing loss. One other thing I don't like so much is that they don't have really good subjective outcome measures. There are a lot of subjective outcome questionnaires that they could use both pre-wearing the hearing aids and post-wearing the hearing aids to evaluate how much benefit you're actually seeing in the real world with those hearing devices. Now, that's something you could probably do on your own. You could go online and search out the APHAB questionnaire or the COSI, and if you can figure out how to fill those out and score them, you'd be able to use them to see how much benefit you're actually getting with these hearing aids in the real world. I also find their marketing to be a little bit misleading. First off, the name of the company, MDHearingAid. I have the utmost respect for medical doctors. I think they're extremely intelligent individuals, but there is nothing about an MD that makes them even remotely qualified to design a hearing aid. If anything, I would expect an audiologist who works directly with hearing aids on a day-to-day basis, and maybe even an electrical or acoustical engineer creating a hearing aid would make more sense. So it just seems like they're trying to take the stature of a medical doctor who founded the company to really entice individuals that, hey, this is a really good medical grade product and I trust doctors, so this product would be perfect for me. Pros and cons of the MDHearingAid Air aside, if you're considering treating your hearing loss but you can't bring yourself to go into an actual hearing aid clinic, or you live in such a remote part of the world that you don't have access to a hearing aid clinic, then ordering devices online might make a lot of sense for you. And at a price point of $800, it's definitely affordable. And from a convenience standpoint, being able to order it from the comfort of your own home and having it shipped to you is definitely convenient. But if that's what you need to do to take that first step in the journey to treating your hearing loss, you might want to give MDHearingAid Air a try. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. If you liked the video, please share it. And if you want to see more videos just like this one, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.